Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on our Tuesday night War of Amalek series. And tonight's shiur is going to be for the ELUL Nishmat of Levin ben David Chaim HaKohen. And also, lehavdil, for the Refuah Shlema and Atzlacha Rabba for Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Talia bat Sarah, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Rachel bat Zora, and also for the Atzlacha Rabba of Rav Meir Yaakov ben Rachel. Kadosh Baruch Hu yivרך otam bekol mikol kol, chaim arukim shlemim meleim Torah, mitzvot, gemilut chasadim. And also all of the wonderful supporters that continue to support our organization, and those of you that have already donated generously on our High Holidays campaign. Thank you very much for it. And those that haven't, we're running out of time. Please do as much as you can, as soon as you can, because there's just simply an enormous amount of need. Every day there's new calls. Every day there's new pleas for more and more help, and we're doing the best that we can. And we need you guys that are enjoying our shiurim, that are watching our shiurim, that have a job, that have some money, to use that money to help us help Am Yisrael. And I know that many of you have asked us a million times over the years, when are we going to finally build our yeshiva? How can we build a yeshiva if we can't even raise the right amount of money to help Am Yisrael, just for a simple a few $100,000 to help poor people in Eretz Yisrael? How can we build a yeshiva that requires millions? So those of you that want blessings, those of you that want miracles, you don't need to look any further. You could simply see more and more miracles being posted on the campaign and on our pages from new students that are telling us about their miracles. Just today, I got a handful of them that Be'ezrat Hashem will be publicizing in the next couple of days. One wonderful woman that's a Talmidah of mine for several years says she made the biggest donation of her life some time ago, of $650. And to her, it was a lot of money, and certainly a lot of money that she was not necessarily ready to do, but she had to do it. She felt she needed to do it for the sake of her mother. She donated to Be'ezrat Hashem, and literally within 2 weeks, she got a contract for $12,000, which is the most amount of money she ever saw in her life at that time. And Baruch Hashem, since then, it's only been blessings. Another story that came out today, which Be'ezrat Hashem will be publicizing both in Spanish as well as in English. You'll hear it from the Talmidah herself, who her and her husband literally saw an open miracle where they had a pikuach nefesh situation where chas v'shalom, they could have lost a baby on a 34th week, a horrible situation, which literally, after they came to us, they asked us to pray for them. They asked us for some guidance. We prayed for them. They gave some tzedakah, and literally the next day, this horrible pikuach nefesh turned into something that never existed. The doctors think that it was maybe a human error in the reporting. Maybe they took all of the reporting they did until now was for somebody else. Literally open miracles, Baruch Hashem, that we've merited to be a part of it. So anyone that wants to donate to the High Holiday campaign, please go to bhrh.org or bhyk.org. You could donate over there. If you want to send a check, instead of doing it on the website, you could simply send us a picture of the front and the back of the check. But I always tell people, paying by credit card or debit card is the best thing in the world, even though there are fees, because it's the cost of doing business. Once you do something, you give tzedakah, the Yetzer Hara shows up and is going to try to convince you not to do it. So he'll tell you, why don't you just write a check? Why don't you mail it this? Why don't you do this? And he'll do everything possible just to get you not to do it. That's why the credit card fee should be viewed as simply another weapon to fight against the Satan, so you could do it as soon as you have the urge to do it, and not delay it even a second. Because I've had, unfortunately, many times when people ask me about all types of tzedakah questions, they want to donate, they're going to send it, they want to save on fees, they want to save on this, and what happens in the end? They don't donate. Why? Because they gave the Satan too many openings to fight them and to beat them, and unfortunately, they never ended up donating. And in some cases, some people were looking to do major donations, but they ended up not having that opportunity. And I can assure you that each and every single one of them is going to cry for the fact that they missed on the opportunity. So, with that being said, another reminder, AI Rabbi, Baruch Hashem, is certainly helping a lot of people. We're seeing tons and tons of questions people are asking. AI Rabbi is still available, still there, still ready for you guys and your questions. You could download the AI Rabbi now. You can subscribe, and Be'ezrat Hashem, get yourself a best friend, a chavruta, that's going to give you endless sources whenever you want for all of your Torah-related and ideological questions, Be'ezrat Hashem. So, with that being said, we're going to get right into it. Why? Because today is the War of Amalek. But in reality, as I'm sure you have seen, the War of Amalek is not just something that Rav Elchonon Wasserman tells us about, that maybe one day you're going to have to fight the Amalek. Maybe one day. Rather, the War of Amalek is every day. And one of the things we saw from that new film that was released, that came from this series, was released on Motzei Shabbat, which I myself watched 3 times. I don't usually watch my films and my lectures, but Baruch Hashem, I have a lot to do, so usually if I learned it, I don't need to usually learn it another time. But in this particular case, Baruch Hashem, the team did such a wonderful job. It gave me so much chizuk. I watched it several times. And I was already on my way to watch it the 4th time, but something came up and I couldn't watch it, so I don't know, Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll have the merit to watch it again. But it's literally that good. What does Rav Elchonon Wasserman say? Omer ani ma'asai lamelech. He tells us, this is my words are for the king, meaning everything that I do is for the sake of the honor of the king of kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And fighting Amalek is a Torah commandment for every single Jew. But unfortunately, many Jews do not realize not only that they have to fight Amalek today, but in fact, Amalek may actually be in your backyard and you may not even realize it. And as you'll see from the title, it's certainly a title that is going to pique the interest of many people, where we have to ask the question, has Amalek infiltrated Jewish schools? Now, after Rav Elchonon Wasserman inspired us to fight the War of Amalek, he now begins to teach us the strategies of war. And this begins with identifying the enemy, the target, and also who else can help us. Is there anyone that could actually help us with this war? Especially since we have to fight it today. Now, during the same generation of Rav Elchonon Wasserman, we will find somebody. And in fact, we find someone that many of you will never even think of as a possibility. In fact, we will find the details from one of the leaders of Chabad, the Rebbe Rayatz, who will answer this question once and for all, letting us know whether Amalek has infiltrated the Jewish schools. Because if it infiltrated the Jewish schools back then, we certainly have to look at whether it's infiltrating the Jewish schools today. And Rav Elchonon Wasserman, in this 11th section of this Omer ani ma'asai lamelech, this kuntres that he wrote, of giving us the instructions of how to fight the War of Amalek, begins with this. Even though the way that's in front of us is known, and the weapon is also known, because obviously until now we've discovered that there is the War of Amalek. We have to fight it. Amalek is coming from all sides. We've discovered that the only way to fight it is with a single weapon, which is the Torah. The War of Amalek is not a war where everyone's going to have to start getting guns and knives and things of that nature. The War of Amalek is a spiritual war. So even though we know that the weapon, the Kli Zayin, that's in our hands, we still have to understand that there has to be a strategy implemented. And that strategy begins with להפיץ דעת תורה ויראת השם בכל יכולתנו, to publicize דעת Torah, the opinion of Torah, meaning the proper Torah ideology of fear of the Almighty, yirat shamayim, with all of our strength. אבל צוות בצוות עשויה. מי ילך לפנינו בדור יתום כזה אשר נותרנו ערומים? But then he says something that comes from the Mishnah in Masechet Avot, in chapter 5, Mishnah number 8, or in some versions of it, it's chapter 5, Mishnah number 5, which is Tzevet B'Tzevet. What's Tzevet B'Tzevet? The Mishnah says that there were certain things that were created in the beginning of the world. 10 things that were created on the eve of Shabbat at twilight. The mouth of the earth, the mouth of the well, the mouth of Bilam's donkey, the rainbow, the manna, the staff of Moshe Rabbeinu, the shamir worm, the script, the inscription, the tablets, which is for the 10 Commandments, and some also say destructive spirits. Moshe Rabbeinu's grave, the ram of our forefather Avraham, and some say also the tongues, the tzevet, which are made with tongues. What does that mean? Well, tongues, for anyone who doesn't know, this is what they look like. And the original ones, I'm sure, looked very similar but different. And to make a tongue, you need a tongue. To make this, you need one that already exists. And that's why the Chachamim say the first tongue was created in Shamayim. Hashem created it. Because man couldn't have created it without having it already. Okay, so what is that having to do with the War of Amalek? What Rav Elchonon Wasserman is trying to teach us here is something profound about our cleaving to the tradition, our cleaving to the Masoret, and in fact, our need for a leader. Because just like the tongues were made with tongues, it's to teach us that to win a war of the past, we need the leaders of the past. But what if we don't have those leaders? Then at the very least, we need the same plan that they had. The same plan of the past leaders. And that's what he says. We need that same plan, but who will be the leader? Who will go in front of us in an orphan generation where we're left naked, without leaders? And for this, he has a strategy. Now, before we discuss the strategy, we have to understand what we're dealing with here. Because in order to fight the war and understand the strategy, like we said, you have to identify the enemy, which we know is Amalek. So what else is there to identify? We have to understand what's behind Amalek. Who's sponsoring him? Now the Satan, the Yetzirah that people are familiar with is the one of lust. Lust for kavod, for people to give you honor, the lust for food, the lust for women, the lust for money. That's the Yetzirah, that's the Satan, that's the evil inclination that everyone is familiar with. But for that, the Satan doesn't fight directly. As I told you in the past, to make it a world that has a balance, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the Satan a throne of glory. In essence, he made him a king. Obviously, he's a king under Hashem, and he's all doing everything he's doing with the permission of Hashem. But nonetheless, he has a throne of glory. And the Satan does not get out of that chair often. Why? Since he's a king, he has messengers, he has servants. So when a person has to fight the war against the Satan that's giving him lust of money, lust of women, lust of food, lust of honor, all of these things, the Satan is not fighting the war against you directly. In fact, he just sends one of his messengers or two of his messengers. It could be a beautiful woman that's not your wife. It could be a monetary transaction. It could be a con man. It could be all types of things. The Satan sends you all types of messengers to make you fall. But when it comes to the 13 principles of faith, when it comes to the foundations of the Torah, the Satan himself gets out of the throne to fight. He chooses a person as the target. This guy has made himself vulnerable. I'm going to turn him into one of my messengers, but not just any messenger. He will be my representative. What comes out of his mouth is as if the Satan himself is speaking. He represents the Satan. That's Amalek. That's Amalek, Rabotai. Now, how does this look like in the Torah? The Midrash Tanchuma, at the end of Parashat Kititze, that we read just a couple of weeks ago, where the Torah says in chapter 25, verse number 17, זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים אשר קרך בדרך ויזנב בך כל הנכשלים אחריך ואתה עייף ויגע ולא ירא אלוהים והיה בהניחה אדוני אלוהיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה לרשתה תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים לא תשכח. Translation: remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you were leaving Egypt, that he happened upon you on the way, and he struck those of you who were hindermost, all the weaklings at your rear, when you were faint and exhausted, and he did not fear God. It shall be that when Hashem your God gives you rest from all your enemies all around, in the land that Hashem your God gives you as an inheritance to possess it, you shall wipe out the memory of Amalek from under the heaven. You shall not forget. See, here the Torah gives us not only a commandment, multiple commandments actually, one to destroy Amalek and two to never forget what he did to us, but it also gives us a story. And the Midrash Tanchuma tells us, what is this story? Why does Hashem hate Amalek so much? And the Midrash Tanchuma says as follows. After Am Yisrael miraculously left Egypt through the strong arm of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with miracles of miracles, destroying the strongest civilization on planet Earth, the whole world became scared of us. David HaMelech even says that Edom was afraid. Moshe Rabbeinu has a song about it in the Torah. Edom was petrified. Moab was petrified. The Canaanites were petrified. Everyone was scared of Am Yisrael. How could it be that these slaves just defeated their master in such a awesome way? Everyone was afraid that they're going to be next. When Amalek saw this, saw that Am Yisrael left Egypt, And Edom, Moab, Canaan, and everyone else is petrified of them. Amalek decided to come and cool off the fear the nations had for Israel and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why the verse says, Asher karecha baderech. Where even though it translates to Asher, that it happened upon you, the sages teach us, karecha comes from the word kiru, to cool off. They came to cool off the fear of heaven. They came off to cool off the fear of Am Yisrael. Just like you put something hot into a cold bath. That's what Amalek came. And how did they do this? First, the entire nation of Amalek traveled thousands of miles at a time that there's no cars, no planes, and the best way to travel is the most difficult way, which is on horses and carriages, and donkeys and camels. Traveled thousands of miles, but didn't go directly to the desert. Instead, they went to Egypt. The whole nation came to Egypt. After Am Yisrael left, what are you looking for? Diamonds? Jewels? Gold? What are you looking for? No. They didn't care about diamonds. They didn't care about gold. They didn't care about jewels. Amalek came to Egypt to look into the archives of the Egyptians to find Jewish names, just like the Nazis. And they came into Egypt and found Jewish names and took those names and then went to the desert. And finding Am Yisrael in the desert wasn't too difficult since they were huge and they were surrounded by 7 clouds of glory. You can't see in, can't see out. It was an awesome display of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's protection on Am Yisrael. And Amalek knew that they couldn't enter. But they came, and they had a strategy in place. And the Torah tells us that Amalek struck those who were in hindmost, meaning the ones that were in behind, the weaklings. Who are these weaklings? First, people that have weaknesses for all types of lusts. So Amalek called in, Yaakov, from the Shimon tribe, are you there? Yaakov hears, where's this voice coming from? Did you call me? No. Yaakov, from the Shimon tribe, here, come out. We got a major business transaction for you. You can make a fortune. What? Did you hear that? Yeah, I don't know. We heard your name. Not us. We're not going. I don't know. It sounds pretty cool. Yeah, but we're learning Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is about to start a shiur. Yeah, but we did a shiur already. We did a shiur. And then we're going to do another shiur. So I'll just go for a couple of minutes just to check it out. See what's going on. You know, it's the same thing here every day. We eat the man. We hear the voice of Moshe Rabbeinu, where Hashem's voice comes out from his throat. It's amazing. I'm not saying it's no good. Just, it's kind of interesting. I haven't heard anybody else in months. Let me go check it out. Listen, man, do what you got to do. So little Yaakov from the Shimon tribe goes out of the cloud. And as soon as he comes out, says the Midrash Tanchuma, they commit Gilui Arayot. They do what the Palestinian Hamas terrorists did to men. Turn them into LGBT. And then after they desecrate his body, they then cut off his brit. Take a knife, cut off his brit. In order to desecrate what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says makes us holy. And then they take his brit and throw it into the air as an insult to God. Say, this is what you like. This is what's holy to you. And then they chop off this poor Jew's head and kill him. This, Rabotai, was a trap that worked time and time again to keep getting the Bachur from the Bet Midrash. He's in the middle of a Seder. He's learning his Daf Yomi. He's learning Shulchan Aruch. And all of a sudden, one of these lowlives that has nothing to do with their life decides to stop by the Bet Midrash, the Bet Knesset. Because he has nothing else to do. He's looking for a friend. And he sees that everyone's learning. But there's one guy, he remembers this guy's a little weak. Hey, Yaakov, come, let's have a cigarette. No, man, I got to study. Come on, Yaakov, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right, no, 5 minutes. I need to get out anyway. I need to get some fresh air. A little Amalek trait could be inside every single person, Hashem Yachem. Amalek did what the Hamas terrorists did. Why? The hatred of Am Yisrael is beyond human comprehension. The hatred of the holiness of Am Yisrael, the Brit Milah, morality, the Holy Torah itself, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is beyond human comprehension. But of course, you'd say, okay, but after a few people failed, they went out there, they didn't come back, what happened? Well, guess what? Because he didn't come back, some of the other guys that were weak, that saw that Yaakov left, they started asking, listen, we're here. Yaakov's having a good time. If he didn't come back by now, he's probably having a good time. Probably met somebody, probably having some drinks. What are we doing here? Maybe we should go out also. Nah, come on, man. Nah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Look, they sounded nice, right? They sounded nice. They said his name and everything. They even knew what tribe he was from. Maybe they're like long distant, cousins or something. Not all the goyim are bad. Some of them are nice. And some left also. And the same thing happened to them. And then the Midrash says, they weren't just weaklings. They were also sinners. And since the clouds of glory could not contain sinners, the moment somebody sinned, the cloud of glory spit him out of the cloud. And Amalek was sitting there waiting for people to sin. As soon as they sinned, Amalek captured them, and the whole heinous process of rape, dismembering the brit, throwing it into the air, and then killing the person repeated itself time after time. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us not only do we have an obligation to wipe out Amalek, but we also cannot forget. Why? Amalek is not just a people. Amalek is an ideology. Amalek could literally be in your neighborhood, in your local markets, and even inside your yeshiva. And therefore, Rav Elchonon Wasserman says, in my words for the king, you have to know that the strategy begins with identifying the enemy. And when it comes to the enemy, there cannot be any mercy. There cannot be any type of liberalism. Because if you do that, you're violating the Torah, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself said to the prophet Isaiah, En shalom Hashem amar l'reshaim. No peace to the wicked, said God. Today, Amalek is doing the same thing. By enticing people to leave the Bet Midrash, to leave the four walls of the yeshiva, of the kollel, to go and pursue business endeavors. Listen, man, you're learning. What are you making? Few hundred. How can you live off of that? Oh, well, my wife works. Say, but maybe she doesn't want to work. Or maybe she's going to be too tired with the kids. Or maybe this, or maybe that. But either way, even if you're surviving now, one day you're going to have to wed these kids. How are you going to wed them? You know, a wedding costs a lot of money. Then you have to get them a house. Then you have to get them this. Now the guy starts giving him, the Amalek starts giving him all types of ideas and concerns about things that don't even exist. He just got married. He just had his first kid. But this Amalek is giving him concerns about something that may happen in 25 years from now. But he convinces him to leave the Bet Midrash now. Why? Because he has a good business opportunity. Come, we have a business opportunity. Cash advance. You can destroy the economy, make the non-Jews hate us even more, increase anti-Semitism. All the while, you can donate to the local synagogue and look like a hero. What do you think? I think their pitch is a little bit more enticing than mine. But certainly, theirs is dishonest. The Chofetz Chaim asked the Rabbi Ponivitcher a hypothetical question. We said that if a person is stressed out, he's in darkness. You know, if you ever experienced severe stress that was going through your life. Some people unfortunately live through this every day. It's a plague, spiritual plague they have upon themselves. But others have it from time to time. Chofetz Chaim asked the Rabbi Ponivitcher, which is over 100 years ago, if there's somebody that's dealing with this darkness, what can you do to help him? And the Rabbi Ponivitcher, of course, waits for the Kohen Gadol, the Chofetz Chaim, to answer. And the Chofetz Chaim does not disappoint and says, simple, give him a flashlight, turn on a light, and all the problems are no longer there. He's no longer in darkness. In the same context, the Rabbi Ponivitcher himself asked a hypothetical question to a Rav Galinsky, Rav Yankele Galinsky, Alev Shalom. He says, if you have somebody that is in the middle of a nightmare, they're dreaming, and in their dream, they find themselves in a dark place, all types of woods. Apparently it's a forest, but they're not familiar with where to go. And there's all types of sounds. And all of a sudden, a pack of wolves runs at him, captures him, and climbs on top of him as the leader of the wolves is about to eat him. He gets closer and closer and opens his mouth full of rage, and his mouth is drooling. And he's looking at this, and he knows that his end is near, as the wolf's face is right next to his. And at any moment, he could bite him. At any moment, that would be his end. What can you do for him? Rav Galinsky doesn't know. And the Rabbi Ponivitcher says, you wake him up out of the dream. Once you wake him up out of the dream, there's no more wolves. There's no more fear. Once a person realizes that all of the anxiety, all of the darkness, all of the nightmares they have are simply a dream, an illusion, as a result of their distance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as a result of their misunderstanding or simple ignorance of who runs the world. Once a person knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He's the one that runs the world and there's no one else, and the Torah is the instructions for each and every single one of us to follow in order to survive this world, to prosper in this world, to publicize His name, then the darkness is no longer there. But what can we do, Rabotai? When Amalek is constantly finding himself in our premises, Although they were fine wherever they were in the middle of the world. They had money, they had people, they had everything they could possibly want. But no, the moment they heard that Am Yisrael, their enemy, is freed from Egypt, and not only freed, but is even instilled fear into the world. Everyone is afraid of their God. Amalek literally traveled thousands of miles with a strategy unlike any other. And in a certain way, as Rebbe Ephraim taught me, Amalek was permitted to succeed almost in the same level as HaKadosh Baruch Hu succeeded, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought fear to the world after he freed us from Egypt. Amalek cooled off the entire fear, because after they were able to bring the names from Egypt, entice Jewish people out, kill them, do whatever they want, fight us, even though they lost the war, the fear of Am Yisrael, the fear of God, cooled off across the board. Amalek was permitted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to literally succeed in the same level, but on the opposite end. An extraordinary way to explain it is through this analogy. Where a person doesn't think that this is relevant to them. They're thinking, listen, I'm religious, I go to shul, my wife wears a mitpachat, or we are not married yet, all types of things. But I'm living my life, I'm waiting for my blessings, I have some blessings, and I'm okay. These things of enticement to go to idolatry, enticement to go to, corruption, enticement to do all types of bad things, they're not really relevant to me. They're not really relevant to me. Maybe they're relevant to Jackie, the criminal down the street. But me, it's not relevant to me. Ephraim heard a story from a young new Rav that got a chizuk, got the tshuva, who really put things in perspective. His name is Rabbi Yosef Daluya. I don't know who he is. I heard this story from my Rav. And he says, once there was a fisherman. And this fisherman, of course, wants to fish, wants to eat. And therefore he prepares his equipment. He has the best rod that he can get, all the best wires, all the best bait. And he goes on to fish at the best spot that he knows of. And he brings even a little grill with him because he's hungry. So he wants to catch, kill, and eat within 5 minutes. And the fisherman goes. But he knows that fishing takes time. So he gets himself a couple of drinks too, just to enjoy the time and fish away. And the fisherman goes and he gets to his spot, prepares his nice little chair, gets his nice hat, puts a little sunscreen, prepares the barbecue. It's ready for the fish whenever you bring him in. Gets his little fishing rod all tightened up. Selects which one of his bait he's going to use. He gets a nice juicy worm. He puts it on the hook. He says, now it's time to go deep. And then, as all fishermen know, it's just time to wait. And he waits. And while he's waiting, he's enjoying the sun, enjoying the view, sitting there, having a drink. He even has a couple of cigarettes too, because he's a smoker. Now inside the water, there's plenty of fish. But everybody's minding their business. But then there's Jackie. Jackie is a little criminal. He knows how to get things done his way. Doesn't want to listen to anybody. But he survived fine until now. Jackie's looking for his blessing. He's looking for his blessing. Where's my blessing? Jackie is a little juiced up, got some muscles, but he's hungry. He's looking for his blessing. And as he's swimming away, all of a sudden, the corner of his eye, he sees it. Oh, look at that. He sees the worm. Jackie knows that's it. That's it! And he runs, and he starts swimming as fast as he can. He doesn't want anybody to get it before him. And right as he's about to get to the worm, all of a sudden, is a little black fish with a beard comes out. Say, oh, Jackie, stop. Whoa, what do you want, Beardy? What do you want? Listen, Jackie, I'm here to warn you. What? What do you want? Warn of what? That's a trap. What's a trap? The worm is a trap. What are you talking about? You know how many worms I've eaten in my life? Listen, this is not the same thing. This worm is a trap. What are you talking about? Let me explain to you. You see this water and everything that's here? This is not everything. This is not the whole world. What? Listen, this water is just a part of the world. You see, that worm, it's connected to a hook. And that hook is connected to a wire. And that wire is connected to a stick. And the stick is being held by these creatures that walk on two legs. And they eat fish. So what they do, since they don't want to go into the water, is they put the rope on the stick, and then the hook, and then the worm, and as soon as you get it, they get you out of there and they kill you. Jackie looks at the little bearded fish and he says, are you out of your mind? What are you talking about? Are you done with this nonsense? Are you done? Can I just go on with my business again? He goes, listen, Jackie, I'm just trying to warn you. Okay, warn you. Thank you. No, thank you. This is complete nonsense. And there's nothing the little fish can do. He tried. Jackie puts his eye back on the worm, but now he wants to get his energy again. Takes a few steps back, and he starts swimming. And he grabs that worm with all of his might, and he's so happy initially, but then, oh, what is that? What is that? What is that? And of course, the little professional fisherman that's waiting on top sees the string pulling. And what does the fisherman do as soon as he sees the string pulling? He pulls it even harder and gets Jackie, the criminal, out of the water. And as soon as Jackie is out of the water, he is baffled. Whoa! Yo, Beardy, help me out here. Help me out. They got me here. You were right. The fish says, listen, I tried. It's too late. But listen. Whoa, look at that. And he starts seeing, there's a whole world. And he starts seeing a whole world, and he gets closer and closer. And then he sees these creatures that walk on two legs. But then he sees the creature, and the creature grabs him by the mouth. And then the creature kills him and puts him on the grill. That's the mashal. The nimshal is, we're the fish. And the fisherman, that's the Satan. That's Amalek, waiting patiently for somebody to bite. Sometimes it's a criminal who simply doesn't want to believe. Sometimes it's someone that's overly confident in their abilities and their knowledge, and therefore they don't want to hear Torah. They think they know better than the rabbis. But sometimes it's just somebody that's oblivious, thinking, no, okay, I heard about Jackie. I heard about many Jackies, but it's not relevant to me. This worm, it's not part of that. I know those worms, they look a certain way. They come with a Bible. They come trying to missionize you to a different religion. I know those. I'm not going to those. No, this one is different. This one is this worm has a kippah on. It's good. It's good. And they don't realize that's also Amalek. That's also a trap from Amalek. And unfortunately, a person that does not realize that the war of Amalek is a mitzvah obligation at all times. And not when you get a chance and when you get the energy and when you feel like it. What they don't realize is that in this story, they're the fish. And the fisherman is waiting for the right moment to pull them in. Now, the Yetzer Hara has all types of good words and things to say to you in order to entice you to follow. And therefore, Amalek are good speakers. Anyone that has ever heard the speeches of Hitler, Imach Shimo, or the communist leaders in Russia at the time, all of these anti-Torah people, even rabbis that are heretics that we've talked about in the past, the one common denominator they all have is they're slick-tongued people. They know how to speak. They know how to entice people. They know how to get you to bite that worm. But in order to ensure that their strategy works, what they do is convince you to not have your guard up. And one of the ways that they do so is by keeping you busy with many wars, where there's so many different things happening, where all of a sudden you hear, wow, look, you heard that there was missionaries in disguise over there? Yeah. Wow, you heard this financial problem? Yeah. Wow, you heard there's immorality? Yeah. Well, you have all these wars everywhere. Oh, you heard that there's this new guy on YouTube, he says nonsense, and he already has 50 people that watched his show? No. Oh, you heard that there's another scam that's being sold on the internet, and there's already 1,000 people that bought it? No. You heard about it, and they know the news about everything that's happening every day, so he keeps you everywhere. Why does he do this? Why is he showing you all of this horrible news everywhere? Because he wants to get you into one of three places. Whether you are a regular person or you're a Talmid Chacham, whether you're a small rabbi or one of Gedolei Ador, the goal of Amalek is to get you to put your guard down by getting you really busy looking at many wars, viewing many wars, seeing how the world is in crisis mode, because then you will arrive at one of three conclusions. And unfortunately, some really righteous people are in this as we speak. One, simply seeing, listen, it's just too much. There's too much Amalek, too much problems. Hashem has to take care of all this. There's too much for me to fight. Let me just focus on learning Torah, teaching my few students, do my shiur. That's it. What? There's another one that's saying heresy. There's another one that's inviting missionaries to the shul. There's another one that's saying all types of things against the Torah. Okay, it's too much. Let me just focus on my little Bet Midrash, my little learning, my little thing. Okay, and Hashem will take care of the wars. Hashem doesn't need me to fight his wars. You're right. He doesn't need you. You need it. And you've made a mistake in your calculation by saying this is not your war. Why? Because too much. That's the first. The second is a person simply saying, listen, you're right. You're 100% right. when they invite Christian missionaries to a synagogue, it's a violation of a Torah, it's Chilul Hashem, it's horrible, it's terrible, it's a danger to the community. You're 100% right. And when that guy says that God needs you, that's 100% against the Torah. And when those people are promoting all types of heretical ideas, 100% wrong. And by the way, in the schools where they have all types of non-Jews teaching, 100% wrong. Okay, so sign the letter, make a video, do something. No, me? No, who's going to listen to me? Who's going to listen to me? Why should I even? No one's going to listen to me anyway. But you're right about what you're doing. That's the second conclusion. Where good people, righteous people, even big rabbis, could be enticed by Amalek himself to simply do nothing. Why? False sense of humility. Meaning, not that they're not really humble, but rather they're humble in the wrong places. And the Gemara has a place. One of the reasons the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed was because one of the sages was humble in the wrong place. By saying, who's going to listen to me? And therefore they do not fight the war of Amalek because they believe that no one will listen. And then there's the third, where he either didn't do anything because he felt like it was too much, or he didn't do anything because he felt like no one's going to listen. Then there's the guy that says, you know what? I'm going to fight everybody. Every day there's a fight. Oh, there's a scam. Okay, go. Write a paper about it. Oh, there's a guy that just came out with a video. All right, do a video against him. Do this. Fights everyone. Fights everything. Fights against the politicians. Fights against the media. Fights against this. Fights against every single thing out there. And therefore, no one wants to listen to him. Why? Oh, he's a fanatic. He doesn't like anybody. He doesn't like anyone. And the Gemara itself says, Tafasta merubelo tafasta. Who told you to go fight everything? You have to be selective with your fights. Can't just fight everything and anything. Tafasta lo merubeh, lo tafasta. If you either catch something small in your hand, or the two birds that are in the tree you're going to go after instead of the one that's in your hand, you're not going to catch anything in the end. It's better one bird in your hand than two in the tree. When a person chases problems constantly, Amalek won. Why? Because if you're fighting everything, number one, no one will want to join you. And number two, you're not going to have the strength to win any war. And that's exactly where Amalek wants you. People fight the Torah for Amalek without even realizing it. Whereas Rabbi Chaim Volozhin writes, they build a synagogue, a shul, on all types of what's supposed to be a Torah house, but not for the sake of Torah, not for the sake of publicizing Hashem's name, but rather for the sake of making money, notoriety, honor, to build themselves a name. Now in today's world, you don't even have to build anything to build yourself a name. You build yourself subscribers. So they'll give lectures online in different places, different channels, different organizations. Oh yeah, come to our organization. We have 1,000 rabbis, 400 rabbis. Come and join us. We publicize it. Many people watch. And as long as you don't speak 100% of the truth, and as long as you don't say things against Amalek, and as long as you don't, tell our donors that they have to do tshuva, then you can come on our channel. So what should I say then? Tell nice stories, make people feel good about themselves. Be nice. Be politically correct. Why do I have to be politically correct? Torah is not politically correct. Well, listen, there's more views if you're politically correct. If you say nice stories all the time, and you say that everyone is a tzaddik, and if a bunch of sinners desecrated God's name by dancing around a statue on Yom Tov, on Shabbat, and something bad happened to them, we have to say that they were all holy. And if a bunch of sinners decide to desecrate God's name by doing a Brit Milah for two LGBTQs, parents, and something bad happens, we have to say that we're holy, though. Everyone that dies is holy. Yeah, but he desecrated Shabbat. Yeah. But he went against Hashem. Yeah. But he continuously lived a life against Hashem. Yeah. So how is he holy? He died. Where does it say that? It says it in the holy books. Don't say anything against it. Why? Because if you do, it's going to be less subscribers. If there's less subscribers, there's less people to press, that little thumbs up. What do they call it? Like. Oh yeah, there's less likes. And if there's less subscribers, there's less likes. And if there's less likes, then there's going to be less donations. And of course, we need to pay for all these computers and the employees and also our vacation house and, my new lease on the car. And, we have bills. We can't afford to have less likes. Do you want to destroy us? Is that what you want? Is that why you came? No. No, I don't want to destroy you. I'm just trying to help. Oh, okay, so help us. Get more likes. Tell them a story about, a rabbi that flew in the air and saved the world and nothing bad ever happened to him or anyone else ever. What about at that same time, there was a pogrom? Yeah, don't talk about that. Well, there was an inquisition. Don't talk about that. Well, there was also the Crusades. They massacred entire communities. You're not getting it. Those types of stories, they scare people. Well, it's good if they scare them because they'll do tshuva and they won't go to Gehenom. No, don't mention Gehenom, no. Oh, okay, well, what do you say? No, we just call it a washing machine. A what? A washing machine. Why? It gets more likes. And this is the type of mentality you have across the board, with few sparks that are willing to fight the war of Amalek here and there. And what ends up happening is when someone is chasing subscribers, chasing likes, chasing donations at all costs, they are not only falling for the trap of Amalek, they actually start serving Amalek and literally become the messenger of the Satan himself, because if it's at all costs, initially, the Satan will convince them simply not to say the truth. Eventually, the Satan will make them change the truth, and everything becomes an outright lie. Now, how do you fight such a situation? We've identified the enemy. We now have to understand that the target is not just you. It's not just your local rabbi. In fact, the target may be deeper than you could imagine. At the same time that this kuntres is being written, there's also a famous lecture, a shiur, that's given by none other than one of the 7 leaders of Chabad, the Rebbe Rayatz, or as many know him as the Friedricher Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Lubavitch. Allah Shalom. He was the father-in-law of the most recent Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was one of the leaders of Chabad. We've quoted him in numerous shiurim in the past. But here is a treasure that was unveiled to us, b'siyata dishmaya, written nearly 100 years ago, during the month of ELUL, and recently republicized on the Chabad.org website, miraculously. Now the speech itself is very long and extraordinary, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. You are all welcome to go read it, and I highly recommend you do. But I'm going to highlight specific things that your average Chabad rabbi or member, especially those that are falling into the trap of the Amalek called Manis Friedman, not only are not aware of, but in fact, if they knew this, they would either go and separate themselves from Chabad, or simply say that this is not Chabad, there's a mistake, which of course they'll be mistaken on. Because what the Rebbe Rayatz says is also going to let us know the answer to the question about all Chabad yeshivot, all yeshivot at large in general, whether Amalek has infiltrated them, back then and today. Now, if what I was about to give you was coming from Rav Wasserman, surely someone from Chabad would say, yeah, okay, what he's saying is right, but this doesn't apply, we're Chabadniks. If somebody were to say, if it came from, some, let's say, Rav Yosef said, yeah, he's right, he's a Chacham, but this doesn't apply to us. But when it comes from Chabad, everyone loves Chabad. So if everyone loves Chabad, we have to see what Chabad teaches. The real Chabad. Not Amalek Chabad. Manis Friedman Chabad. The Chabad of YouTube. And he says as follows. Why should the revelation of a soul in a physical body be called a descent of the soul? He's talking about how the Chachamim say that when you come to this world, when we come to this world, it's a descent. Why is it a descent? Isn't it something good? The short and simple answer is that all roads are presumed to be dangerous. In the heavenly world, the soul is responsive to godliness without any effort. Whereas after it makes the journey to this earthy world, it faces numerous distractions in its service of the Creator. And the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 105b, refers to the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, as a craftsman, a teacher, an artist. He is really an industrious artist, teacher, and leader who devotes those gifts to causing a person to sin. He adjusts his approach to lure different kinds of people into his hands, developing a particular style of friendship to attract and fool each individual victim. His crafty tricks are indescribable, for he attunes his flattery and falsehood to suit every individual. It is this evil inclination that convinces elderly and balanced people, and rabbis, and Torah scholars, to seek honor and pride by virtue of their scholarship, and to harness it to think up unduly permissive halachic rulings, meaning they think of themselves so highly that they can allow themselves to say things that are against the Torah, such as God needs you, or that no one will be punished in Gehenna because of the exile, or all types of other nonsensical statements that heretics say freely today. And the Rebbe continues saying, it is the same evil inclination who argues his way into the heads of donors and of laymen who love the Torah, making them feel attracted to modernized pseudo-yeshivot and various educational institutions with their free-thinking male and female teachers. And it is the same evil inclination who deploys a variety of false arguments to convince middle-class Jewish businessmen to desecrate Shabbos and family purity. Here, the Rebbe is literally describing our generation. Whether it's rabbis and leaders that are simply telling people things that are against the Torah, like inviting Christian missionaries to a synagogue is okay as long as he doesn't give a lecture about Christianity, which again is complete falsehood according to Halakha. Or it's people that love the Torah, supporters of the Torah. And they're also interested in supporting modern orthodoxy and all types of modernizing and universities and all types of things that, listen, it's up with the times. And have free thinking available. Let people do whatever they want. And invite all types of teachers, even if those teachers do not have the proper ideology to teach our precious Jewish children. Because maybe we could save money. Maybe we could discover new things. Maybe this and maybe that. And therefore the donors give the big donations to the yeshiva that should not even exist. Because it's not really yeshiva. It's allowing all types of things against the Torah. And what about those people that are violating Shabbat? He says, yes, the same Yetzirah convinces them that it's okay to drive on Shabbat because they're driving to shul. It's okay to work on Shabbat because they're a big donor to the local shul. It's okay to violate Shabbat because it's hard for you. It's okay that your wife didn't go to the mikveh this month because it's bad weather. In so many words, he's describing what's happening. Furthermore, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Rayatz, says, among my notes, there's a substantial essay on a profound saying by the scholarly tzaddik Rabbi Shimshon Ostropoli, which says, praiseworthy is isolation with people and solitude in the midst of one's fellows. These words do not mean, as properly understood, from their plain meaning, that a person should isolate and segregate himself. Rather, it means that everything should be used for its intended purpose, and then one can attain isolation while together with people, and solitude while in the midst of one's fellows. However, the pervasive splendor of the physical world provides the evil inclination with abundant material to use in his persuasive endeavors to entice his victims to sin. In so many words, he's saying that being secluded from everything is not what Hashem wants you to do. He wants you to be secluded while still being in the world. The problem is being in the world, sending your kids to yeshiva, going to shul, working, being in business, starting a business. All of those things that Hashem made available in the world are also available for Satan to use to get you. You're in business, he's going to try to get you to do corrupt business. You're in yeshiva, he's going to try to get you to listen to the heretic teacher that they allowed inside to the yeshiva. You're in shul, they're going to attract you to go sit next to somebody that can't shut up throughout the entire prayer and likes to talk about all types of atheistic ideas. Wherever you are, the Satan is going to use it. And the Rebbe continues, no one can consider himself safe from the Satan's hands, because he applies every faculty and every means to find his way into everyone, everywhere. He even has the insolence to flatter his way into influencing tzaddikim, oblivious to their intense rejection of him. This earthy world is a dangerous place, in which the evil inclination, the Satan, have God's permission to approach every Jew, even a tzaddik who is as great as Avraham Avinu. So this already shows us why this coming to this world is considered a degradation. But what are we to do? Says the Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov once sternly rebuked a certain Jewish tavern keeper. Then, privately, he confronted him with a list of all of his sins in tough terms that his listener must have found painful. Meaning he not only rebuked him in front of people, but then he took him aside and he actually told him every single sin that he did. Literally, Ruach HaKodesh in front of him. You went with this Goya, you stole from this guy, you did this. You know, things that the Baal Shem Tov could have never known without Ruach HaKodesh. Since those sins were named in private, the disciples, of course, did not hear what was said, though they did hear the tone of the rebuke, and that left them wondering. When the Baal Shem Tov noticed this, he explained to them, I had to reveal myself and to fulfill the holy mission that was placed upon me from above. Had I not done this, I would have been a robber who lurks in the forest, seeking to attract bypassers. The Baal Shem Tov made that statement in response to the wonderment of his disciples at the unaccustomed severity of his words to the tavern keeper. His message was that a leader among Jews should speak precisely and unambiguously, and when the times make it necessary, one must speak with unequivocal sternness, taking into account not the respect that should seemingly be known to individuals, but only what will benefit the public. It was the universally renowned Chassid, the lover of his fellow Jew, Rabbi Akiva, the Tana, who said, in a court case, no pity is to be shown. Where the question at stake is whether or not a law of the Torah is to be carried out, all considerations of compassion must be set aside. Indeed, if the issue involves the public observance of a Torah and its mitzvot, one must be stronger than strong and tougher than tough in order to succeed, with God's help, in securing the public good. How many Chabad Hasidim are familiar with this obligation? How many of non-Chabad Hasidim are familiar with this obligation? How many rabbis in general that are not even part of Hasidut, Sephardi, Ashkenazi, are familiar with this obligation? That you have to be stern, that you have to rebuke, that you have to think about the greater good of the public and not your own personal agenda. Says the Rebbe, a leader of the Jews must adopt a robber's heart towards himself as he goes about his task of disseminating Torah study in a God-fearing spirit and disseminating the ideal of Ahavat Israel. These tasks he must undertake in a spirit of self-sacrifice, both material and spiritual, disregarding the cost and items of his standing, his health, or his time. Moreover, if there is no option, he must be stern and tough with others too. Indeed, a leader among the Jews must have a strong heart and a tremendously strong will in all circumstances, and even in the greatest danger he must execute in actual practice the holy mission with which he has been entrusted and for which he is answerable. It is for this reason that he must be, as it were, an unrelenting robber, not only with regards to himself, but also with regards to others. One must speak plainly and clearly. This section is specifically for the Manassehs and followers. Speaking plainly and clearly, not all types of things that no one understands except you, especially when they ask you for sources that don't exist. What is speaking plainly and clearly? For example, says the Rebbe, regarding Taharat HaMishpacha, the laws of family purity, one must speak clearly and distinctly, not like those rabbis who obscure the subject with their philosophical approaches. Rabbis who state clearly what the Chumash and the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch have to say about how Jewish family life should be conducted. They should inform all their male and female listeners of what the holy books write concerning the dire results, meaning the punishments, of the neglect of the Torah's laws of family purity. With that introduction, we now need to know, what does the Rebbe think about Gehenna, heretics, perhaps even the yeshivot? And this is the section we built up for. Says the Rebbe, explicit speech is required likewise when rabbis speak of schooling. Parents must be told plainly that they should enroll their sons and daughters only in kosher Talmud Torah schools, whose administration and male and female teachers observe the Torah and its mitzvot. They will then be able to hope that their children will remain Jews. Both men and women must be told that if Talmud Torah schools are staffed by freethinkers who desecrate Shabbat and do not put on tefillin or observe the laws of family purity, and who are disbelievers and atheists, those schoolhouses are houses of heresy. Rabbis must state publicly from their pulpits that parents who enroll their children in such schools are leading them with their own hands to apostasy, to heresy. In the laws of Tshuva, the Rambam distinguishes between two kinds of reshaim, two kinds of wicked people. First, those who do not fulfill the positive commandments and who transgress the prohibitive commandments are punished in Gehenna for each transgression according to the laws of the Torah, and are then granted a share in the world to come. Meaning, there's no limitation of 1 year in Gehenna. Every sin gets a certain punishment. But eventually, person comes out. If they're the average person that observe Torah and mitzvot, they keep Shabbat, they're not heretics, they'll get punished for whatever they did. And eventually, they'll come out of Gehenna and have a share of the world to come. But then there's a second section, says the Rambam. Those who are atheists, heretics, and disbelievers will be never cleansed in Gehenna, and they will have no share in the world to come, because their sin is so heinous that they will never be released from Gehenna. This is what the Rambam says, and this is what the Rebbe of Lubavitch is saying. The Rambam delineates the above three terms as follows. Minim, these are atheists or missionaries, are those who deny the existence of a sole creator who regulates the world. Apikorsim, these are heretics, are those who reject the prophets and claim that God does not know what mortals do. Kofrim, these are disbelievers. They are ones that deny that God gave the written and the oral Torah, and who do not believe in the resurrection of the dead, nor in the coming of Mashiach. And listen to this. The administrators, and the male and female teachers at the Treif Talmud Torah schools belong to all three of the above categories and transgress on principle. They are virtual descendants of Nimrod. They seek to cause the public to transgress and to uproot the practice of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism. Yet, it is to such irresponsible people that the education of Jewish children is being entrusted. All the men and women who enroll their children in those Treif Talmud Torah schools ought to know that those children will grow up to become, God forbid, haters of their fellow Jews, who will ravage synagogues and Jewish graves and demolish their gravestones. The bitter fruit of such enrollment will be that those parents will eventually be buried like animals, with no Kaddish and no Yizko. These Chadarim, the Jewish elementary schools, are surely in need of a certificate of kosher supervision at least as urgently as stores that sell meat and other foods and beverages. Here, the Rebbe is showing the wrath of the Torah as if he literally has prophetic visions of what happened in the last 80 years since he wrote this. You have a yeshiva with non-Jewish teachers. You have a yeshiva with heretics as teachers, atheists, people that are not Torah observant. You have no share of the world to come. Whether you are the rabbi running the school, the principal, the administrator, or the parent that's sending the kid there. Unless you do tshuva and remove the Amalek from within. We'll finalize with this, what the Rebbe says. Again, this is the 6th Rebbe of Chabad. Not Yaron Reuven. I wish this was my words. The Agudat HaRabbanim and the Va'ad HaRabbanim should be assuming a role of leadership in the religious life of the Jews in this country. They are entirely responsible for every aspect of the community's observance of the Torah and its mitzvot. On them lies the holy obligation to compile and publish an explicit list of all the Talmud Torah schools, indicating which are kosher and which are treif. That list must reach the broad Jewish masses in Yiddish and in English, via newspapers and pamphlets. Without any doubt, such a list will save thousands of Jewish boys and girls from the houses of apostasy. Rabbis, so long as you do not fulfill your duty towards kosher education by publishing that honest listing, you will be guilty of enabling the calamitous misleading of all those children. Let me address my brotherly request to you, the respected participants in the present assemblage, namely, inform all your acquaintances and ask them in turn to inform all of their acquaintances that parents who entrust their children to institutions whose staff members who do not heed the obligations of tefillin or Shabbat or kashrut or family purity are leading them with their own hands to apostasy, to heresy, and they will be left with neither Kaddish nor Yizko. Parents, save your children from apostasy and enroll your children in Talmud Torah schools that are staffed by men and women who observe the Torah and its commandments. And I hope that my request will be fulfilled by all concerned in the best way possible. Here we see Rabotai Karim, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Lubavitch, alav shalom, bring us literally prophetic words that gave us clear, without mumbling or stuttering, or any political correctness or liberalism, clear understanding of whether Amalek has infiltrated the Jewish schools. If the Jewish school, the yeshiva, for kids, for teenagers, whatever, has secular Jewish teachers, has heretics that deny even one word of the oral Torah, one word of the Gemara, one word of the Chumash, question God in such a way where they're denying one of the 13 principles of faith, or most often, or most common crime, are employing non-Jewish teachers even for secular subjects like mathematics, English, history, or whatever else, if you're employing those teachers, that school is under the trap of Amalek. Amalek has entered it. Now, for those that think that this may be exaggerated, when I went to New York recently, one of the times we went to a museum of Rabbi Deut. Talmid Chacham has an extraordinary museum. And we spoke about Kiruv and different things. And he said, yeah, I just got off the phone with actually a parent that comes from where you are in Florida. And the parent, I know him for a long time, he's crying to me because he sent his kid to the so-called best yeshiva. And now the kid is off the derech, not keeping Torah and mitzvot, because the teacher in the yeshiva is a heretic, atheist, who convinced the kid he should also be an atheist, he should also be a heretic. So now the father is trying to get me to convince his kid to do tshuva. I wish this was the only story. If I told you all the stories, the time would end. And we still wouldn't finish. Another parent who sent their kid to yeshiva tells me, I don't know if I should continue sending my kid to the yeshiva. Why not? He said, well, first off, even though the school says that they have a policy that the kids are not supposed to have phones, all of the kids in the school have phones, and not a single one of them even has a kosher phone. Meaning it's not only they have phones in the dorms, that they're on it at all times, they're not even kosher phones. Meaning, Hashem Yachem, what they're watching on these phones. After they learn Torah, they go learn the Satan's Torah. They go learn internet and all the filth that's on there. And if that's not enough, when you tell the teachers, tell the principal, tell the rabbi, they go, we'll look into it. A month has passed, nothing has changed. Now, if this was enough, okay. But then he says, listen, I also don't like that there's a lot of non-Jewish teachers in the yeshiva. Apparently, they were looking to save some money, so they got the cheapest possible teachers. And they have these people teaching them a little math, a little English, but some of them don't speak English well themselves. But instead, what are they teaching these non-Jewish teachers? They're teaching the kids how Ebonics is a legitimate language. Like saying, yo, give me that biscuit. And all types of language of the hood, language of the goyim, is being taught to kids, little precious Jewish neshamot in the yeshiva that you're paying thousands of dollars for every month. Instead of learning, Amar Rabbi Abaye, Amar Rava. What are you learning? Yo, stop saying you. Say use. Why? It's legitimate language. And you know how we're oppressed because of our skin color? What are you talking about? One of the students in class is also black and he's Jewish. There's no oppression. Yeah, but that's an exception. No, it's not. He made a choice. His family made a choice. And you're making a choice. And anyway, why are you teaching me, instead of teaching me English or history, why are you teaching me about how you feel oppressed? If you feel oppressed, why are you here? Go back to wherever you came from. You don't like it, leave. Rabotai Kalim, this is being taught in a yeshiva. And I can assure you, the kids are not defending themselves like I am. They don't have the tools. Instead of learning what they're supposed to be learning, they're learning all types of nonsense. And if that was it, I wouldn't even mention it. The horrible behavior reached the climax in a school in Israel, in Kfar Chabad, where a young kid apparently was made fun of by his entire class when they had a party for the school, and he wanted to, there was a circle and everyone was dancing, only boys. When he came in, he wanted to also join in the celebration like the rest of the class. Everyone left the dance floor, left him alone. The cameraman yelled at him, meaning the whole place made fun of him. Now you would think, okay, it's horrible, kids could be mean. I wish it ended it there, because the Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia says someone that insults another Jew in public has no share of the world to come. The cameraman, the kids, whoever was responsible. And I wish that was it, because still you could do tshuva for it. But what are you going to do that the kid cried so much, he died? He died. He had a weak heart, apparently. And what happened to him, that public embarrassment that happened to him, this young kid, who's maybe 13 years old, died. This happened just now. A group of kids used to send me questions. All types of questions about morality, Kedusha, Parashat Shavua. But then all of a sudden I see this group of kids are sending me unusual questions, heretical questions, questions that atheists ask. And after I've had these kids as students for a while, I asked them, I thought that you all go to a yeshiva. What happened to you? Why do you ask these questions? He said, actually, these are not our questions. This is what our teacher is teaching us. I said, wait, you went to yeshiva? He goes, I'm still going to yeshiva. I said, so what teacher? What is this, after school? He goes, no. This is what our gym teacher is teaching us every day. Because he's an atheist. So he's telling us that we're stupid for praying to God because he doesn't believe he exists. And he gives us all of these things. So that's why we're asking you these questions. I could not believe my ears. Kids are going to yeshiva and they're being taught by an atheist that God does not exist. I called the principal, the rabbi of this yeshiva. And I told him, aren't you embarrassed? How can you possibly allow such a thing? For an atheist to be one of your teachers? Oh no, well, he promised me he wouldn't do that. So, what do you mean he promised? Wait, so you knew he's an atheist? And you still employed him? Well, he promised me he wouldn't say that. Well, he does, and he's been doing it for months. And the kids that I helped do tshuva are now considering becoming atheists. Why don't you fire him? I don't know. It's hard to get somebody else. I could not believe I'm talking to a rabbi. And Rabotai Karim, the stories don't end. Another school that I called because somebody asked about it, and they said they had some issues there and so on. So I called the principal. I said, listen, one of my students attends your school and she just started there, and she's saying that it seems like there is many non-Jews that attend your Jewish school. Is that true? And the administrator is like, of course, like proud of it. Of course, yeah, of course. So, okay, well, I had to collect myself. Wait, what do you mean, of course? How many of your Jewish school students are not Jewish? Well, at least half. I could not believe myself. I said, but this is a Jewish school. He said, yeah, but they pay the tuition. And I realize I'm speaking to an idiot. That somehow the Satan gave them $10-20 million to get a building, to get a license, to get this, and build a school and call it a Jewish school. Rabotai Karim, not all yeshivot are the same. There are certainly some that are fantastic places. How do you know if it's a good place or not? Number one, if they have non-Jewish teachers, heretics, apikosim, people that are not Shomrei Torah and Mitzvot, and they're teachers in that school, the Rebbe of Lubavitch already says, it's not only not a good school, it's a place of apikosut. And he wasn't the first or the last. 300 years ago, meaning more than 200 years before he wrote this, Arav Kuli from the Me'am Loez writes in Parashat Yitro, parents that send their kids to non-Jewish schools, to teachers where the teachers are not Jewish, are committing the sin of idol worship, like they're sending their kids to the Molech. Am Yisrael has dealt with all types of problems. But the greatest problem that we have right now is that we're in the middle of a war against Amalek, and your average Jew, as religious as he may be, or she may be, that does not even realize they are obligated to take part of that war. And therefore, says Rav Elchonon Wasserman, we know what the weapon is. That's to publicize the Torah and fear of heaven. We know that we don't have the leader like we had in previous generations, but we do have the instructions of the leaders. And therefore, we have to follow those instructions. And in order to win this war, the way is to collect all of those that fear Hashem into one group, to unite us for one purpose, to fight against Amalek. As the Rambam says, in all my life, no one can defeat me unless they're a person that only has one thing in their mind. To teach us that we have to be narrow-focused when it comes to this war. And not fight all the wars. Fight everything. Do everything. No. Just like the Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan says not to make the mitzvot into packages where you combine mitzvot of different places into one. Don't do that. It says when it comes to doing good deeds, siyum hashas, a certain type of learning, a certain type of chesed, each group can do whatever they want. You can teach your students your way, he can teach his students that way, your community can do this chesed, that community can do that chesed, no problem. But when it comes to the war against Amalek, when it comes to fighting the evil, there is only one way left for us to win, and that is to unite all those that fear Hashem, all those that want to fight against Amalek, and everybody have a single narrow focus that we're fighting for the truth and nothing else. We're not going to allow our kids, our precious kids, to be taught by idol worshippers, by heretics, by atheists. We're not going to allow Amalek to go into our synagogues. We're not going to allow Amalek to lead us. We're not going to allow it. That's the only way, says Rav Elchonon Wasserman. That's the only way, says the Rambam. That's the only way, says Deut Torah. That's the only way. And the problem is when the Amalek convinces us that, yeah, you're right, but our community in this Chassidut is different, and our community in a different Chassidut is different, and our community in this Ashkenazi is different, and our community in this Sephardi place's tradition is different. You're not understanding. There was once an old man, Holocaust survivor, religious guy, waiting at a bus stop, and there was also a young secular Jew over there looking at the old man. with disgust, because he believes the media, he believes the Tel Aviv liberals that tell him that every religious Jew is a bum and no good and so on. So he's already looking at him with disgust, and the old man asked the young man, "What time is it?" And the young man says, "What difference is it to you? You're a bum anyway. You guys don't do anything. You guys just leech off us." And the old man, who has already seen his share of what this world can offer, says to the young man, "Well, that's too bad. That's too bad that you're making a distinction between us. Because I had a teacher who you're familiar with. You're actually very familiar with him. And he taught me love Jews and hate Jews." And the young man, of course, is interested and says, "Who is this teacher?" And the old man rolls up his sleeve and shows him the tattooed numbers that he got being inside the concentration camps. He says, "You see, Hitler was my teacher. He taught me love Jews and hate Jews. Because when I was on the line to go into the camp, the Hitlers and the followers, they hated all of us. And when I was on the line later on to go into the gas chambers, before I was miraculously somehow saved by the hand of Hashem, Hitler and his followers didn't care about the difference between whether I was Ashkenazi or Sephardi, if I came from a certain Chassidut or a different Chassidut, whether I came there with a beard or did not have a beard, or I had a kippah or didn't have a kippah. In fact, when they were burning the bodies that they killed in vicious ways, 15,000 bodies burned every single day at that particular camp, and millions more in others. And the stench that was there at all times, and the people suffering not only from starvation, pain and agony that was impossible to deal with from the lice that was on all of us, to the point where literally people would take their pants, whatever clothes they had, they would take them off and start beating it against rocks in hopes that the amount of lice would go down. Hitler did not care if you came there religious or not. Hitler did not care if you were even married to a non-Jewish woman. Hitler did not care if you were young or old. In fact, he didn't even care if you were halachically Jewish. Hitler killed all of us. And you know the difference between us is, young men, both of us know these teachings from Hitler. I got a personal lesson. You didn't. And that's why you make that distinction. When we distinguish between one custom of Judaism versus another, one community of Jews versus another, we are beating ourselves in the War of Amalek. Because the only way to fight against Amalek in a orphan generation, says Rav Elchonon Wasserman, is that the ones that are loyal to Hashem, the ones that have fear of Hashem, the ones that understand that we are all obligated to fight for the honor of Hashem for our own sake, and fighting against Amalek that is looking to desecrate everything holy. The ones that are loyal must unite in a unified ideology. We will not allow our children to be taught by idol worships and Amalekites and heretics and apikosim. And we will not allow our kids to be hostages in the claws of Amalek. We will not listen to these supporters of Amalek, nor are we going to continue to fund and employ those that make partnerships with Amalek. Because Rabotay Kalim, we're not going to get 2 chances at this life. We're here, and nobody's promised tomorrow. Be'ezrat Hashem, each and every single one of us who realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has told us in the Torah, Am Yisrael is not like the rest of the nations. Am Yisrael is not supposed to think like the other nations. Part of our fight against Amalek is to understand that we have to seclude ourselves from everything that is against the Torah. And the moment you start thinking that, well, this is a modern world, or we're living in the exile, or we're living in America, or this, or all types of other excuses to justify having non-Jewish teachers in Jewish schools, heretical ideology being permitted into the community, into the synagogue, being quiet despite the fact that you know the desecration of Hashem's name is happening. The moment we start fighting it, we start winning. But as long as we stay quiet, either because we think the war is too big, or because no one will listen to us, or simply because we don't really care about anything outside our own little circle, then unfortunately, we're giving Amalek the win without him even fighting. Be'ezrat Hashem, every single parent will take their responsibility of raising their kids the right way and understand that sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil. If nobody complained about these things, perhaps that's the reason why the school feels okay to do these things. If nobody complained about these things, perhaps that's the reason why the synagogue has these things. But if people start making a stink about God's name being desecrated, about Amalek being within their community, perhaps, just perhaps, Hashem will help us win the actual war. Because at the end of it all, it really is too big. But that's not something that's supposed to be our concern. The fight of Amalek is not about winning. The fight of Amalek is about fighting. And once we fight, Hashem will win. Thank you very much for learning with me. May Hashem help and protect all of us and our children from this Amalek that unfortunately has somehow infiltrated different places around the world, whether it be it's in Florida or New York or Israel or wherever it is. He's still there because we're staying silent. Every parent can say something. And Be'ezrat Hashem, you do. Because if you don't, some of the greatest sages in our history say that you are responsible. No different than those kids are responsible for the death of that little boy. And we don't want that. Hashem gave us a responsibility. He gave us the present of having kids. We have to do whatever we can to protect them. It begins with education. Be'ezrat Hashem, we succeed. Anyone that wants to support, perhaps even help us build this yeshiva that we've talked about already for several years that needs a lot of support, but in reality, some people that are even watching can fund it by themselves because it's within your means. And if it's not within yours, it's within your circle's means. And you know that if you want something bad enough, you find a way to make it happen. There is a way to make a kosher school. There is a way to have a school where every Jew will have a place there. There is a way. But it requires the Jewish people to care enough about the future today. Bezrat Hashem, people are inspired. Kol tu b'cha b'atzlacha, and Bezrat Hashem will learn again later this week.
Shalom, my name is Hadassah, and I wanted to recount our miracle story, the Nes Hashem did for me and my family this year. In my second trimester, I was diagnosed with placenta previa, and Baruch Hashem, it moved, which was a good sign for the rest of the pregnancy. But during that same appointment, on Rosh Chodesh ELUL, we found out that I had placenta previa, a way more serious and dangerous diagnosis. According to doctors, the only procedure known to solve it is an early delivery through C-section around 34 to 37 weeks. And this C-section is not a normal C-section. It is very likely a high risk that you would lose an abnormal amount of blood. And because of this, with the C-section, they would have to perform a hysterectomy. According to the doctors, there's no other way. This, of course, was devastating news to us, my family and I. But we knew that everything comes from Hashem. My husband based his bitachon on something he read on Rosh Chodesh ELUL while studying Sha'arei Teshuvah in the third gate. That if we see calamity approaching, we should bear Hashem's salvation within our hearts and trust that it will happen. His deliverance is near to those who fear him. So we started to do all that we could, all that was in our power. We incremented our kavanah and our prayer. We prayed with tears, happy tears, thanking him for all that he has already given us, and tears pleading with him to have mercy on us and our family. We incremented our Torah study. I started to thank him more for every little thing that I had, the children that I already had, everything that he provided in our household. We started to listen to Rabbi Reuven's Bitachon Shirim series again. And I remember in the series, he said that we should not fear what is in the future. We do not know the future, only Hashem does. Take it to day by day. And of course, as long-time listeners and students of Rabbi Reuven, we increased our weekly donations to the organization in what we could in support, especially during this time of ELUL, for all the families that the organization helps with. And Baruch Hashem, on the 10th of ELUL, Hashem answered our prayers. We were at an appointment speaking to the doctor when she said she wanted to go over the ultrasound images and results again, as something did not sit right with her. And when she did, in the imaging, the placenta previa was gone. We got a confirmation report on that day as well. She, of course, said that it must have been human error. But we knew that only Hashem could do this great miracle that he did for us, for me and my family. In that moment, we said, Hatov Hameitiv, and cried in happiness to Hashem, thanking Hashem, because only he is the one that could do this. Now, mom and baby are healthy and well, Baruch Hashem. And we knew it was thanks to Hashem's mercy over us and our involvement with the organization and Rabbi Reuven and all the Torah emet that it puts out there for all to learn. We know, just as Rabbi Reuven and Rabbi Mizrahi say, especially in these days, to work on our middays, but to also increment our tzedakah and what we can. Every little bit can count is good for us, and it helps all of those who need it at this time. We thank Rabbi Reuven, we thank the organization, and above all, we thank Hashem for all that he does for us as his people, as his children daily.
Rabotai Karim, Be'ezrat Hashem, this message finds you doing well and preparing for the big holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. If you've learned Torah with us over the past decade, you've also learned that we hate lies, empty promises, and any statement without a source. So this year, we asked dozens of our donors to tell you themselves what they have received as a result of partnering with us and having us pray for them during this time of the year. And the conclusion you'll see, our donors received miracles. Cured from cancer, having a child after 10 years of marriage without kids, financial success and protection in impossible situations, finding a zivug, special siyata dishmaya in Torah learning, and countless other miracles that you could read and watch these special neshamot tell you themselves. After a decade of nearly 14,000 shiurei Torah, feeding hundreds of thousands of poor Jews, widows, and orphans in Eretz Yisrael, distributing nearly 250,000 books and 2 million USBs, CDs, and posters for free, setting up multiple kolos, Hashem has decided to continuously accept our prayers and blessings to help our donors get miracles. And this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we want even more of you to get your personalized blessings and miracles. By donating generously and becoming our partner, you'll have the opportunity to help us feed 10,000 poor Jews this holiday, be a partner in nearly 1,000 Avrichim learning the entire Shas in a single day, and even get a special blessing with your name in one of our new books coming out this year. Rabotai, our donors receive unbelievable miracles. Join us by donating and getting others to donate, and Be'ezrat Hashem, you too will receive and be part of the next miracle story.